Welcome to the channel. I'd like to do a book review today of a book I've recently finished by Niall Williams. It's called This Is Happiness, hence the Irish background. This is a book that's a novel that's set in the West Clare region of Ireland, southwestern Ireland, in a fictional town known as Faha, F-A-H-A. And I come here to sing the praises of this novel. I really loved it. As a preface, I'll talk about how I came across the novel. I didn't know anything about Niall Williams. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you're probably aware that I tend to focus on classic books, which means, to my chagrin, I don't read enough contemporary literature, and this is certainly contemporary literature. It was published within the last 10 years. Let's see what our publication date is. 2019. That's like brand new by the Great Books, Big Ideas standard. So I didn't know anything about Niall Williams. And I know I'm late to the party because apparently he's a pretty good selling author, and this is not his first book. So anyway, how did I find the book? Well, this is thanks to one of you. One of the viewers commented on a novel that I praised in January, if memory serves, January of 2026, and that is Love in a Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I just really love that book. And I think the commenter, if memory serves, they said, if you like that book, you should give this one a try. And they gave it a little thumbnail, review, got me interested in it. And I put it on my TBR. Like I keep a running list on the Notes app on my iPhone. Just books that I want to keep an eye out for. Books I might borrow from the library or buy. And it so turned out that a couple weeks after that comment, I was at a high school book sale in February. And lo and behold, this popped up. I recognized it, picked it up right away, put it in the bag, and bought it. And I forget when I started reading it. It was probably in March, and it took me about a month and a half to get through it because I read so many books at the same time. I sometimes make pretty slow progress. I will make a couple comments about sort of the review history of this book and some pacing issues that some people don't like about this novel, and that partially explains why it took me a little bit longer to read it. But anyway, in a book I also recently reviewed, The Coming of Age by Simone de Beauvoir, which I really liked a lot. This book, as I was researching it after I finished the book, I went to Amazon. I was just curious to what people were saying about it, and I think I checked Goodreads, and which I guess I have an account on Goodreads, but I never really use that site except for occasional research. Anyway, on Amazon, there were only about 55 reviews of this book, which came out in 1970. 55 reviews of Simone de Beauvoir. Amazon review count for This Is Happiness, which came out in 2019, it's something like over 12,000 reviews. So at that point, I realized, oh my goodness, I've really missed the boat with this author. He's pretty big deal. And that just goes to show my ignorance of contemporary literature. Well, what a rewarding read this was. I think I'm going to have to read some more contemporary literature. I've been having some good luck lately with recently published books. I like the Amor Towles book, The Lincoln Highway, and I really liked this one. Anyway, some people in the reviews, which are by large, it's over 4-star, average, close to 5-star. But, there are some complainers in the review list, and some people complained. It seemed like the major complaint that people had was with the slow pace of the book. And I will say that it is a bit of a slow burn at first, but if you soldier through, like I would say maybe about a third of the way through is where it started to pick up steam for me. And then it just got better and better as it went along. You get to the halfway point, you really start to want to turn the pages and know like how the story is going to push forward. And then you get 2/3 of the way through and you're really on the hook. But it's not a suspenseful novel. It's I can read you the blurbage here, and we'll sort of build on that. And there's some good reviews here on the back, which I should mention. It was a Man Booker Prize long-listed, Niall Williams is a Man Booker Prize long-listed author. And this is a book, it's billed as a profound and enchanting novel about the loves of our lives and the joys of reminiscing. So the loves of our lives is what it has in common with Love in the Time of Cholera by Garcia Marquez. In both those books, you have a vast amount of time that has passed between like a character sort of trying to reacquaint with a lost lover, and that's where they kind of overlapped. The setting's entirely different. This is very much a novel of place, so it totally evokes southwestern Ireland, which, according to my Ancestry DNA profile, the Irish part of me, which is about 18%, hails from that region, probably around Cork in that neighborhood, but that sort of Munster area and southwestern Ireland, Kerry, Clare, like down that way. So I took interest in that. And this is very evocative, a sense of place. But let's continue on with the blurbs. The rain is stopping. So this is kind of the plot hook. I won't give too much away here, but that's the basic plot point. Is the rain Ireland is a typically like wet place, it's hence all the greenery, but the rain has stopped, and that coincides with the oncoming rural electrification of Ireland. And this is one of the last villages, Faha, to get electricity. So a sort of, at the time that the electricity, they're starting to write the contracts and get people signed on, and they get permission to put the poles up and everything. As that's happening during this one summer, the rain completely stops, and the weather's just beautiful and sunny and warm and even hot. So the rain is stopping. Nobody in the small forgotten village of Faha remembers when it started. Rain on the western seaboard was a condition of living. Now, just as Father Coffee proclaims the coming of electricity, it is stopping. 17-year-old Noel, his nickname is No Crow, is standing outside his grandparents' house shortly after the rain has stopped when he encounters Christy for the first time. Though he can't explain it, Noel knows right then something has changed. This is the story of all that was to follow. Christy's long-lost love and why he had come to Faha. Noel's own experiences falling in and out of love, and the endlessly postponed arrival of electricity, a development that, once complete, would leave behind a world that had not changed for centuries. And this is kind of roughly in like the 1950s, 60s, when all this is happening. So this is a retrospectively narrated by Noel, he's first-person narrator, and he's reminiscing. He's looking back on this sort of magical time. And Christy, who used to live in the area, has had a lot of life and adventures along the way. He's come back. He's part of he's working for the electrification project. he rents a room in Noel's grandparents' house. So I think it's he and Noel share the same bedroom. They get to know each other. Noel actually starts working with him, and they have a lot of companionship. They're buddies. And Noel's 17, and Christie's, I think, in his 60s. And so we find out that he's kind of come back to sort of get reacquainted with his long lost love, and I'll leave most of the details of that story out of the review, because it's part of the charm is discovering the details. And Niall Williams does a nice job of sort of sprinkling those through, like not giving it all away at once. You have to kind of keep reading chapters to get to another little tidbit, and the breadcrumbs you follow until you get the whole picture. And they go around a lot. They kind of go pub hopping. They go looking for music. There's a lot of local sort of Irish traditional music that they're both into. They ride their bicycles around. And it's a very primitive, rural, gritty Ireland. Rural, pastoral, and it's full of a cast of characters of people who live in the village and outside the village and in the surrounding territories. Lots of characters, lots of local color, very entertaining characters you fall in love with. The grandparents, Ganja and Dodie, they're great characters. The girls that Noel falls in love with are three sisters. They're really cool, and they're daughters of like the local doctor, and the love interest of Christie is a really good character, and so many others, the clergy and the shopkeepers and the pub keepers and just the neighbors. It's a lot of local color. So if you like books about rural places, this is really evocative that way. And as I was continuing to read the book, I kind of got the flavor. I was flashing on a film that I saw like many, many years ago. I think this film came out in the 1980s. And it was called Local Hero, which, if memory serves, was about this little village in northern Scotland. And again, it's been so long, but I think the plot involved like a little bit of a modernization project. They were going to build up this area, and I forget if it had to do with like the North Sea oil development or if it was a tourist development. I can't remember. They might have been getting people to kind of sign away their real estate. I can't remember. But then there was like a character who kind of came in, outsider. I think he was an American, and he kind of falls in love with the place. And maybe Burt Lancaster was in that movie. I want to say, I can't remember. But it was a lovely little film. I really liked it. I can't remember the director either, but it was a good director. I think it's the same director that did the film Gregory's Girl, which was also set in Scotland, a film I love. Sweet film. Should have done my research to remember the director's name. But anyway, I'll try to put a link to those films in the show description, and I'll give the director due credit. But the vibe of like this kind of like the little village with like the quirky characters, and then the sense that things are about to change in a really dramatic way. That's the kind of vibe I got from This Is Happiness. And it's very bittersweet. It's got a good sense of humor. Poignant is a word, an adjective I would use. Just a lovely, lovely read if you're into that kind of thing. And it wasn't overly sentimental, but it certainly had that side to it. I loved it. I just thought it was a really good book. So let's see what the Big Fish reviewer said. Associated Press says, a breathtaking tale. Williams is a master of Irish storytelling, crafting sentences that tempt the reader to double back and read again, and characters that get under your skin. This is true. Characters that get under your skin, you'll fall in love with these characters. And also really good sentence level based writing. He's a good writer of sentences. And sentences that invite you to dwell on them. So if you're looking for a fast page turner, this isn't exactly the book for that. That being said, chapters are relatively short. They're not hard to get through. I just found it took maybe about 40, 50 pages to get a little bit acclimated to his style. And then once I got at home with that, it was clear sailing from there. What does the New Yorker say? This elegiac novel is as unhurried as its setting. The novel's description of a lost rural lifestyle and the gaps between a young man's romantic expectations and the inescapable letdown of reality is comic and poignant in equal measure. Very accurate. New York Times. This big-hearted story is an intimate study of a small place on the brink of change. They're literal, but that's accurate. And the Wall Street Journal called it an often delightful rural rhapsody. Also true. And yeah, it's one of those books that just make you feel kind of warm and cozy inside. But again, not overly sentimental. It's poignant. It's bittersweet. And partly like a rite of passage coming of age story for No. You know, No is kind of in a tough place. He's lost his mother. He's living with his grandparents. He's between things. He was once kind of earmarked to go into the like divinity school, into the clergy, but he doesn't really want to do that. So he's kind of finding his way, and we get to see the emergence of first love with him. It's almost like Christie's story, like influences No's story, and there's like that age gap between them. So, and he even he becomes an ally of Christie, and he tries to kind of facilitate the reunion between Christie and his love interest, whose name is Annie. And it's touching, it's funny, and it's it's the kind of book where it's like if it hadn't been recommended to me, I don't know if I would have picked it up. And that's why I'm thankful to you all out there for providing recommendations to me, but also to others. So like, I think it's a good idea to use the comments area to just tout books that you like and you think are worthy of our attention, because this one certainly was. I was just thrilled with it. So glad I read it, and it's another one of the highlights of my reading life for 2026. That's about all I'll say. This is happiness. Just wanted to heap some praise on it. I know he's popular already. I'm not an influencer in this regard, but I loved it. Maybe you would like it too. Thanks for watching.